I almost didn't do this project. This simple cedar chest belonged to my great-great-great-grandmother. But after almost 20 years, I finally decided I'm going to take on one of the biggest risks of my refinishing career. One wrong move could erase a piece of my family's history forever. This chest has been in my family for generations. My grandmothers have obviously passed on, but my mother's earliest memory of it is sitting next to my great-great-great-grandmother's old pedal Singer sewing machine, and it held quilting supplies. Now it sits in my living room and holds blankets and old CDs, if any of you remember what those are. Every scratch on this chest was made by someone that I love. I wonder how that bite mark got there. And I think that's what really terrified me, is that I wasn't just refinishing a piece of furniture for some other family. I was touching the history my family had already made. All right, enough with the dramatics. Let's just get to work. I tested it for lead because that's how I start all of my projects. Good news, it was lead-free. I thought removing the lid would make it easier, but as it turns out, 80 or 90 years of living life takes its toll on screws and hinges, and it ended up taking like 30 minutes to get the top off. And those hinges wanted to stay in place. So honestly, probably because I was a little overly cautious, I just left them there and removed some of the screws, or enough of the screws to be able to take the lid off. While I was applying this chemical stripper, I thought about all of the lives and all of the time that this chest had seen. We are thinking that maybe a neighbor or one of her sons built this chest out of necessity. It's nothing fancy. It's just cedar boards that maybe someone had lying around and could spare. They didn't have a lot of money, and so it may have just been kind of a favor that someone did for the family. And the truth has been lost to time. The people who had any information on it are long gone, and the people that can remember things are starting to not be able to remember. All the more reason, and arguably my responsibility, to refinish this and get it back in pristine condition for the next 100 years. My recollection, I've never worked with solid through and through cedar. And so before I started, I did some research just to try to educate myself to make sure that I was doing my best work on this high reward piece. Cedar is very soft and dry, and it's really easy to damage if you scrape too hard or sand it wrong. So I took extreme caution when scraping off this chemical stripper to make sure that I wasn't leaving lasting scratches. Hindsight, I wish I would have done multiple rounds of chemical stripper, because I found out later on that this one coat did not get all of that finish off. Big surprise, everything's always harder than you think it is. I stripped all 5 sides, including the lid, and then it was on to sanding. And sanding, and sanding. Oh, and did I mention sanding? I actually broke a new personal record. I used 71 random orbital sanding pads in this project. Can you imagine if I was charging someone for this piece? No, this was totally my fault. I am absolutely 150% a work harder, not smarter person. And I just kept thinking, okay, well, this will be the last time that the old finish gunks up my sandpaper. And then it just kept happening and kept happening and kept happening. I also went on a limb and bought different sanding pads than I usually do. And I just feel like they did not work as well or attach as well to the orbital sander. So, lesson learned. So learn from my mistakes and take the 10 or 15 or 20 minutes to do another coat of chemical stripping and save yourself 71 sanding pads. You're welcome. Along the way, it looks like this top had snapped in half somehow, maybe something heavy on top of it, and someone had glued the center piece on the top and then underneath added some braces, which you saw in the original photos. And so I just took this opportunity to pick out all of that extra glue, and it was so satisfying, I will not lie to you. Oh, look, more sanding. That's fun. I did want to show this little trick I've been doing lately, though. Sometimes as I'm sanding up through the grits, I have a hard time telling where I've been, number one. Number two, that I've sanded appropriately and enough to make sure that I'm not leaving swirl marks. And so I started doing just a couple lines with pencil, and it's really helped me to keep track of where I've been and what I've successfully sanded and what needs some more attention. I sanded up through 220 grit, and it was finally time to start making this pretty again. So I did a coat of wood conditioner. I do this on every single project that I'm going to stain, and you can either do a wood conditioner based on the kind of stain that you're doing, oil versus water, or you can do a slip coat with mineral spirits, and it just really helps the wood take the stain evenly. Decided to do 2 coats of oil-based penetrating wood stain for this piece and just applied it with a rag that I got at the dollar store and cut up into 4 pieces because we are working on making less trash for the landfill. I finished off the body and the top of this chest with Danish oil, and I've used this the last few projects, and I actually have learned to really love it. What it does is it seeps into the wood fibers and then hardens up internally and protects the piece. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but after you get the hang of it, it's really nice and it gives just a really natural, glowy finish to the piece. After 2 coats of Danish oil, you just wipe off the excess with a rag or a good paper towel and let it dry for 8 to 10 hours and you're good to go. currently using this as a coffee table in my living room, and so I did also add several coats of wipe-on polyurethane just to try to give it some extra protection since it's such a high traffic area. I added just a touch of rub and buff to the hinges as well as the lock mechanism on the front of the chest. Then it was finally time to reattach the top. Just a reminder that this is where we started, and this is where we ended. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I was scared to death to do this project, so much so that it took almost 20 years to do it. But I think it turned out better than I actually expected. This chest will never ever look new, and that's exactly how it should be. The scratches, the dents, the patina, that's my history. And all I did was give it a little extra time and a little extra future. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so other people can find it. If you love furniture restoration, furniture flipping, or DIY, consider subscribing. I try to put out new videos every single week, and I'll see you next time.